My name is Freya, and if you're listening to my voice right now, just know one thing. I never believed I'd ever need revenge in my life. I'm a calm person. A quiet person. The kind of girl who minds her own business, keeps her head down, and avoids drama like it's a contagious disease. But life has this strange habit of pushing you into battles you never wanted to fight. And this story is about the day I finally pushed back. When I moved into my new apartment, I honestly thought it was the beginning of a peaceful chapter. A new job, a fresh start, and a roommate who seemed sweet, polite, and harmless. Her name was Misha. She smiled too much, talked too softly, and pretended to be one of those perfect, aesthetic girls who drink matcha and read poetry by the window. I thought I lucked out. I was wrong. Within my first month of living with her, weird things started happening. Little things. Small things. Things that didn't make sense at first. A missing lip gloss. One of my shirts I couldn't find. A perfume bottle that was suddenly half empty. I questioned myself before anyone else. Maybe I misplaced it. Maybe I forgot. Maybe I loaned it to someone. I kept giving myself excuses because that's what nice people do. We blame ourselves before we even consider the possibility that someone might be violating our space. But then the small things grew into bigger ones. Clothes. Expensive ones. Dresses I hadn't even worn yet. A jacket my mom gifted me for my birthday. One day, I opened my closet and felt a cold fear rush through my chest. Half my tops were missing. Half. And the thing is, nothing in the apartment seemed broken. No signs of forced entry. Nothing out of place. Except the emptiness in my closet that stared back at me like a joke I didn't understand. At least not yet. One night, I came home late from work and walked past Misha's room. Her door was slightly open, and that's when I saw it. My yellow satin dress hanging on her wall mirror. My dress. She doesn't mean it. But the truth? She meant every single thing she did. She knew exactly how to twist situations, how to manipulate emotions, how to make me feel guilty for things I didn't even do. And slowly, painfully, she trained me to believe that her happiness was my responsibility, that her problems were mine to carry. But everything changed the day I found out the real reason she stayed so close to me. It started with something small, something so small I almost ignored it. My coworker asked me, "Hey Arya, how's the project going? Ria told us she did most of the work for you." I froze. Ria? Doing my work? A lie so big it didn't make sense. But that was just the beginning. Because over the next week, I overheard more things. Things like, Ria said you can't handle pressure. Ria said she basically takes care of your life. Ria said you wouldn't survive without her. Every sentence felt like a punch to the chest. Every rumor traced back to her. The girl I helped for years had been using my name like a stepping stone, building herself up by tearing me down behind my back. I confronted her gently, hoping it was a misunderstanding. But she looked me straight in the eyes, smiled, and said, "Arya, people listen to me. It's not my fault you're too emotional to handle things." In that moment, I realized she never saw me as a friend. She saw me as a tool, a resource, a backup generator for her drama-filled life. And when I stopped being useful, she planned to replace me by destroying everything I had built. That night I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even shake. I just sat on my bed, staring at the wall, replaying 10 years of memories and realizing they were all one-sided. And that was the moment something inside me broke, or maybe something finally woke up. Because I decided that night that if she wanted to play games behind my back, I would end everything in front of everyone. With truth. With evidence. With her own words. I would make sure the world saw the real Ria, not the sweet, innocent, poor me girl she pretended to be. And trust me, she had no idea how far I was willing to go. This is where my revenge begins. And if you think you know what happened next, you don't. Because even I couldn't have predicted how far she would fall once I stopped protecting her. The next morning, I woke up with a feeling I hadn't felt in years, clarity. Not peace, not relief, but a cold, sharp clarity that cut through every lie Ria had wrapped around me. I looked at my phone and saw her messages, the usual fake sweetness, the dramatic emojis, the little hints that she needed something again. She didn't know that the Arya she used to manipulate was gone. So I ignored her. And the silence must have scared her, because within minutes another message came. Arya, are you okay? I'm worried. Worried? The same girl who had been stabbing my reputation behind my back suddenly cared? I didn't respond. I had no reason to. Instead, I got ready for work, put on the outfit she once said made me look too confident, because confident women intimidated her. And I walked out the door with my head held high. At work, I noticed people looking at me differently. Some with curiosity, some with sympathy, and some with the quiet pity people give when they believe rumors. And every rumor had her fingerprints on it. But instead of confronting anyone, I observed. I watched how people behaved around me. I listened to whispers I was never supposed to hear. I saw how Rhea had positioned herself like some kind of savior in my life, pretending she helped me, guided me, carried me. The lies were everywhere, woven into conversations like poison threads. And the more I listened, the stronger my resolve grew. I wasn't going to fight with words. I wasn't going to argue. I was going to dismantle her carefully constructed web with one thing she could never control: truth. At lunch, I went to the cafe we always visited together. She was there, pretending to be busy, pretending to be stressed, pretending to be the fragile friend everyone needed to protect. She looked up when she saw me and smiled like nothing had happened. Arya. Finally. I've been trying to reach you all morning. I nodded, slightly. I know. She tilted her head, studying me. She was trying to read my emotions. She expected guilt, fear, or anger. Instead, she found neutrality, a calm she couldn't manipulate. Are you okay? She asked softly. You seem off. I wanted to laugh. Off. As if she hadn't spent years draining me emotionally. As if she hadn't used my name to gain sympathy and attention. As if she hadn't reshaped people's perception of me to lift her own image. I'm fine, I said simply. Her eyes narrowed for a split second, barely noticeable, but I caught it. She didn't like not being in control. She didn't like not knowing what I was thinking. And she hated not being the center of my emotional world. She leaned closer. You know you can talk to me about anything, right? Anything? The irony was sharp enough to cut glass. But I didn't respond to that. I didn't need to. Instead, I studied her. The perfect makeup. The delicate voice. The fragile posture she put on only in public. The mask she wore so well that people fell for it without hesitation. But now I could see cracks. Tiny ones, but they were there. Cracks that only form when someone realizes their puppet isn't dancing anymore. She asked again, slightly more desperate. Arya, are we okay? And that was the moment I realized the truth. She didn't care if I was okay. She cared if we were okay. If her access to me, my time, my emotions, my resources was safe. If her control over my life was still intact. And my silence made her nervous. I simply said, we're fine, and stood up to leave. But as I turned, I heard her whisper under her breath. Don't act smart, Arya. Ah. There it was. The real Rhea slipping out. Arrogant. Entitled. Threatened. And that single line told me everything. She knew I was slipping out of her grip. She knew she was losing power. She knew the version of me she could exploit was disappearing. And she was terrified. That evening, I went home and opened a folder I had created the night before, labeled simply, The Truth. Inside it, I gathered screenshots, voice notes, chat logs, messages she sent about me to others, recordings of conversations where she twisted stories, and every piece of evidence that showed who she truly was. Not because I wanted to humiliate her, but because I wanted to expose her mask. For once. Publicly. Completely. Irreversibly. I wasn't going to ruin her. I was going to reveal her. And sometimes exposure is the deepest form of revenge. As I organized the evidence, a strange calm settled over me. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't anxious. I wasn't sad. I was focused. And with each file I added, I felt lighter, as if her weight was lifting from my shoulders. But the universe wasn't done testing me. Because just when I thought I had seen enough, I discovered something that made my blood freeze. Something that proved she hadn't just been using me. She had been planning something far worse. And that was the moment I knew that exposing her wasn't just revenge. It was necessary. For me. and everyone she had manipulated. The real war was only beginning. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, the room lit only by the glow of my laptop screen, and I opened the last folder I hadn't checked yet. It was something I had saved automatically, old backups from my phone, synced to the cloud months ago. At first, I thought it was just random pictures and notes I didn't need, but then I saw a file with an unfamiliar name, Ria_backup_chat. My stomach tightened. I clicked it. The file opened, and suddenly I was staring at messages, my messages, but not sent from me. My number, my name, my writing style. But the words weren't mine. She had been messaging people pretending to be me. I scrolled further, and with each line, a new wave of betrayal crashed over me. She had apologized to people on my behalf for things I never did. She had asked for favors using my name. She had manipulated mutual friends, telling them Arya is struggling emotionally, please support her. As if I were some helpless project she was heroically rescuing. But then it got worse. Much worse. I found messages where she badmouthed others using my identity, so they would hate me, not her. She used my number to send voice notes she recorded herself with my name written under them. She had been building a version of me that only benefited her narrative. Weak, unstable, guilty, confused. A person easy to control. A person easy to overshadow. A person easy to replace. And suddenly it clicked. Why people had been treating me differently these past few months. Why some friendships had drifted without reason. Why some colleagues looked at me with quiet judgment. She wasn't just ruining my image accidentally. She was sculpting it intentionally. Slowly. Precisely. Strategically. My hands clenched into fists, but not out of anger anymore, out of understanding. She had been planning my downfall long before I realized anything was wrong. And I, trusting, naive, loyal, had walked right into her trap. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. I organized the files into categories: identity misuse, defamation, manipulation, gaslighting, and one final folder I named, The End. I didn't know what I would put there yet, but I knew it would be the last piece. And it would destroy her lies permanently. The next day, I decided not to confront her directly. People like Ria thrive on confrontation. They twist your words, flip the narrative, and turn themselves into victims within minutes. I needed to be smarter. And smarter meant quiet, invisible, unpredictable. I went to work like nothing had changed. I smiled. I nodded. I spoke politely. And I watched. She arrived exactly 7 minutes late, pretending to be exhausted so people would ask what happened. Someone did. Ria, rough night? She sighed dramatically. Yeah. Arya and I had a misunderstanding. She's going through a lot. I'm just trying to be there for her. I didn't flinch. She scanned my face, waiting for a reaction, but I gave her none. She continued her performance. I hope she's okay. I'm really worried about her mental health. Mental health. She was already planting seeds, soft ones, disguised as concern, but dangerous if left unchallenged. I smiled gently and said loud enough for the room to hear. Don't worry, Ria. I'm perfectly fine. My mental health is great, actually. A few people looked surprised. A few exchanged glances. A few frowned. And that was when I knew. Her narrative was cracking. By evening, she was restless. Nervous. I could sense it in the way she hovered around my desk, pretending to need help with tasks she could do in her sleep. She wanted information. She wanted control. She wanted to know what I was thinking. So I gave her nothing. On the way out, she followed me to the elevator. Arya, can we talk? I pretended to think. About what? About us, she said softly. I feel like there's distance. I replied. Maybe that's a good thing. Her eyes widened. She wasn't expecting that. What? Why? Because sometimes, I said calmly, distance protects you from the person hurting you. Her mask cracked. Just a tiny fracture, but it was enough. Hurting you? I've done everything for you. Exactly, I said with a small smile. Everything. The elevator doors opened, and I stepped in. She grabbed my arm. Arya, don't play games with me. I know you found something. I turned slowly. Her eyes were sharp now, calculating. She wasn't acting anymore. This was the real Ria. The one beneath the soft voice. The one beneath the fragile facade. I don't play games, I whispered. I end them. Her grip loosened. I stepped back into the elevator. And as the doors closed between us, her expression shifted into something I had never seen before. Fear. Pure, genuine fear. Not of me, but of losing control over me. That night, I received a message from an unknown number. Just one sentence. If you expose me, I'll expose you. I laughed. Because she didn't realize something yet. I had nothing to hide. And she had everything. I opened the final folder, the end, and began typing the last piece of my plan. A plan she could not escape. A plan that would turn every lie she ever told into truth. Not about me, but about her. And tomorrow, I would press send. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Not out of anxiety, but out of clarity. Today was the day everything would fall exactly where it needed to. Not through chaos. Not through confrontation. Through truth. I dressed calmly, drank my tea slowly, and walked toward the office with the quiet confidence of someone who finally holds every card in the deck. When I reached my desk, people were already whispering. Something felt different in the air. A tension that didn't belong there before. And then I saw why. Someone had printed screenshots of messages. Ria's messages, and slipped them anonymously under different office doors. They weren't from me. They weren't from anyone else. They were from her. The ones she thought she deleted. The ones where she talked about people behind their backs. The ones where she bragged about manipulating situations. The ones where she insulted her own teammates. My chest tightened, not in fear, but in surprise. I didn't do this. Someone else had found a part of her truth before I revealed the whole thing. And just like that, the cracks became fractures. People avoided her. People whispered. People exchanged looks when she walked by. When she arrived, she sensed it instantly. Her smile faltered. Her breathing quickened. What happened? She asked a coworker. The coworker shrugged, ice cold. Maybe ask yourself. She turned to me next. Arya, did you do this? No, I didn't even blink. But from what I've seen, it looks like your past finally caught up. She didn't answer. She couldn't. For the first time, she wasn't holding the script. She wasn't controlling the narrative. She wasn't the center of pity, admiration, or sympathy. She was the center of suspicion. And suspicion is the one thing manipulators can't fight. It spreads too fast. She pulled me aside. Listen to me, she hissed, voice trembling. I know you're planning something. Just stop. We can fix this. I tilted my head. Can you fix it? Her eyes darted left and right. She wasn't worried about the truth. She was worried about her image. Her reputation. The fragile mask she had built with so much care. And I was about to shatter it fully. Meet me after work, I said quietly. Conference room B alone. She swallowed hard. Why? Because I'm done being silent. I walked away, leaving her standing there, shaking, confused, desperate. The workday passed slowly for her. I could see it in every step, every anxious glance, every attempt to pull people aside for explanations. No one cared enough to listen. They were already distancing themselves. Cutting ties. The power she once held over everyone was slipping from her fingers like sand. Finally, evening came. I walked to conference room B. She was already there, pacing, sweating, clutching her phone like a lifeline. When she saw me, relief washed over her face. Arya, please. Let's talk. Let's fix this before it gets worse. Before what gets worse? I asked quietly. Before you lose control of everyone? Before your lies stop working? Before the truth comes out? She flinched. You're twisting things. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean to get caught. I corrected. She froze. I placed a folder on the table. Her eyes widened. What's that? Everything, I said softly. Everything you did. Everything you said. Everything you pretended wasn't happening. Arya, please, she whispered, her voice cracking. Don't do this. I'll apologize. I'll fix things with everyone. I'll stop using your name. I'll delete the accounts. It's too late, I said almost gently. You spent years building this version of yourself. You don't get to undo it in 5 minutes. She shook her head, tears filling her eyes. I can't lose everything. I can't start over. That was the first honest thing she said to me in years. Then you should have thought about that, I replied, before you tried to destroy me. Her knees weakened, and she grabbed the edge of the table to keep from falling. Arya, what are you planning to do with that? I smiled, not cruelly but with finality. I'm not doing anything, I said. Not yet. Her breathing hitched. Then who is? I leaned in, looked her straight in the eyes and whispered, everyone you lied to. She went pale, and she finally understood. What was coming wasn't my revenge. It was their revenge. The people she used. The people she played. The people she pretended to care about. I picked up the folder and walked toward the door. Tomorrow, I said quietly, you'll know everything. And I left her in the cold, silent room, shaking alone, and terrified of the truth she could no longer escape. The next morning, I walked into the office with the calmness of someone who had finally taken back her power. But unlike yesterday, the air wasn't tense, it was electric. People weren't whispering anymore. They were waiting, watching, expecting the truth to finally surface. And it did. Not from me, not from some anonymous coworker, but from everyone. One by one, people began stepping forward, sharing the things she had done to them, things she thought she had perfectly hidden. A coworker revealed how she had taken credit for his work. Another explained how she spread lies about her to gain sympathy. A junior employee admitted she was bullied into silence. It was like a dam breaking. Every lie she built, every mask she wore, every story she fabricated, it all collapsed at once. And then came the final blow. HR called a meeting. Everyone was invited, including her. She entered the conference room with trembling hands and swollen eyes. She looked smaller than I had ever seen her, like someone who finally understood the cost of her own cruelty. The HR manager began speaking. We have received multiple reports, along with documented evidence, of behavior that violates company policy. She tried to interrupt. This is all exaggerated. Arya is behind this. She has always been jealous. Enough, the manager said firmly. We have screenshots, audio messages, shalog, files. And that's when I placed the folder on the table, the one labeled The End. Silence flooded the room. Every page, every message, every recording, all of it was real. All of it was her. Not my revenge. Her truth. When she saw the last file, the evidence of her impersonating me, she broke. Completely. She sank into the chair, burying her face in her hands. Please, please don't do this, she whispered. I can't lose everything, Ria, the HR manager said softly but firmly. This is the result of your own choices.